having me. And she says, I'm Dean Tribble from Agoric, and I'm here to help. No, I'm here to talk about building impossible things. Now, some of why we're here at Union Hall is because Union has some impossible things that it accomplished. And we've all gotten into crypto partly because we're able to start building things that a long time ago were thought to be basically impossible. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing for the next level of that. So first, Agoric, for if people haven't heard about us, we are a layer 1 chain powered by the build token, where our focus is orchestration, enabling solving chain abstraction. And if you have not heard of chain abstraction, we can move that rock for you. But it is an initiative that actually was started by Connect's now Everclear. But we really got the ball rolling on chain abstraction when Agoric and Near and others started Chain Abstraction Day back in February. And Agoric in particular brought out this concept of orchestration, which is enabling not just chain abstraction, which is users want to use assets and services independent of the underlying chain, but it's we need to be able to program complex, interesting use cases so that users can approve simple things. And we'll talk about how we do that and how we make this stuff that used to be impossible possible now. Okay, so with the success of interop, with the success of IBC, with the success of modular, we've got this increasing number of chains that are all connected, but you have to hand carry your assets from one place to another, right? That's sort of the core of what we've built, and people are starting, and so chain abstraction started around the idea of, users don't want to deal with these hundreds of chains. Users don't want to deal with having to hand carry and figure out which bridges to use at any given time. We need to be able to make that more tractable. And so we started down this, the general idea of chain abstraction, which is, insulate people from all of these details. But where does that take us, right? People have now added, there's a cross and there's skip go, where they have made the motion of tokens much easier. They've made it easier to move your assets around, change them one thing to another. Who here has used any of these tools? Anyone use skip or cross? Right. So, and those are a big improvement if you've used stuff before that. But when you bought your plane ticket to come here, did you have to take your money from your bank, move it over to the bank of the airline, and convert it to their local currency in order to buy an airplane ticket? Pretty sure nobody here, anyone do that? Nobody does that, right? What you want to do and what users want to do is not move their money around. They want to move their money around in order to do something with it, right? They want to move it in order to buy a ticket, in order to buy an NFT, in order to get into a yield position. And more than that, often they want to start with assets they have somewhere else. They want to unbond or pull something out of a fund, out of a mutual fund, or out of a yield position in one chain, move it over and pay off a DPIN bill in order to get their AI working again. And they'd like to have that automatic, right? Users want to do stuff with their money, not just move it around. And so these tools, while they're a big improvement, they're not the impossible thing that we need to solve. We need to, all of these systems, all of these point solutions, the solver networks, they're really valuable for moving those money around, but they don't get to the point of letting you do the end-to-end thing that you want to do. And that's what's currently impossible, even as we're moving into this world of intents. And that's, something we'll talk about. How do we build richer things there? Okay, so what are some of those examples? Did it work? Yes, it worked. All right, so cross-chain staking. We just talked about user-centric staking, where users want to not just take some Atom and stake it. They want to be able to liquid stake it. They want to be able to restake it. They want to be able to use the staking yield on a daily basis to go build out some position elsewhere. They want to pay off their DPIN bill. They want to pay off their electric bill. They want to do all of these things in an automated and easy fashion, and they cannot currently. Now, currently, it is a manual effort to do each of these things individually, and frankly, most people in the world are never going to do that. We've got to make that easier, and it's not currently possible. So I'll go through several of these things, in-place swaps, swaps where I'm paying you on one chain for Bitcoin on another chain, or for an NFT transfer on a chain that gives you access to movies, or any of those kinds of things, right? We can't currently do that. It's hard. We need to make that easier. On-chain liquidity solvers. You hear about the solver networks. It's really important that we have off-chain solvers. But if you want to be able to have anonymous provisioning of liquidity so that anyone can participate as an LP provider to solvers, that you would like to be on-chain. You'd like the strategies to be on-chain. And that's the kind of thing where it's a richer thing that people can't currently build. It's currently impossible. Right? These are some of those kinds of things. Ticketing is the simple, I want to move money and then buy a ticket. I don't just want to move the money, right? Subscriptions. Subscriptions are an enormous industry on an ongoing basis. So I talk about ticketing. Ticketing is an $80 billion a year industry. $80 billion in revenue a year. Web3 has huge value to add to it, and we're barely scratching the surface, right? We've got all these opportunities, and it's because it's currently impossible in our current infrastructure, right? Cross-chain automated market, so I mentioned that, and I'll talk about yield optimization as an example of a thing that's currently challenging or impossible to do to do cross-chain yield optimization, and I'll use that as an example to talk about how we achieve that with orchestration. So, current systems, Solidity, Cosmwasm, Solana, pick your poison, they're really designed for programs that start and end within one block, right? I can do an AMM trade, I can do a swap, it takes less than a second, and it all fits within a block. I could pack a bunch of them in, people talk about unicity or batching or all those sorts of things, but what they can't do with all that fancy zero-knowledge stuff is they can't do something that takes 10 seconds. Or 20 seconds, or it takes from when I'm looking for a ticket to the point where I have bought it, which might be several minutes later. That ability to do multi-block actions, to do actions that span not 5 seconds, but span the end user's use case, that's what unlocks the impossible things, and that's what orchestration brings to the table. Okay, so let's see how that works, right? Let me push the right button, there we go. Okay, so let's take a simple case, and this is something where I'm going to focus on an example that is what we'll be targeting in 2025 that is enabled by Union here, where we can do all of this orchestration, not just for all of the IBC connected world, but for Ethereum, for Solana, for Filecoin, everywhere else, right? So I want to take some USDC on Arbitrum, and this is one of our early access partners has this problem. And I want to take it over and put it into Compound on Polygon. And then I want to take the yield from that over time and build up an ETH position as ETH now, whatever it is, goes to the moon, okay? And I want to do that with one signature, right? I don't want to every day have to figure this out. I don't want to have to figure out which bridge am I going to use and which particular thing am I going to swap on. I want to say, do this, right? Do this for me. Currently impossible. I want to make it easy. The way that works is it gets implemented in a smart contract running on Agoric, and I'll show you what that looks like, which then can asynchronously send messages and operate in this broadly connected world using all the bridge technology that all of the brilliant people out there are rolling out in order to make that end-to-end use case that takes time, that crosses time, chains, tokens, ecosystems, to make all of that work. Okay, so what does that look like? What it looks like is JavaScript code that millions of programmers could understand running in this smart contract on a chain. So let's just take for a moment, I'm just using a constant here, we're going to talk about $1,000, right? But what the core code looks like is, let me get an object that in JavaScript says, here's all the things we could do remotely with the Polygon chain. And I'm going to reach out and I'm going to make an account. So that means our smart contract is going to connect over, go over Union Bridge, Hyperlane, whatever it is, right? Reach out to Polygon and make an account. And so the first miracle of the platform is I can await that, right? I'm going to sit here in this smart contract, and it doesn't finish within one block. It sits there and waits for that account to come back and act that now I've got an account on Polygon. And more than that, that user account object is the only thing on the planet that can control access to those assets that are in that account, that new account that I created. And that means I don't have to worry about permissions, and I don't have to worry about all this stuff. I've got secure access to this thing, like I'm holding onto my wallet, right? And then I'm going to transfer my money, my deposit amount, over to that user account there that you can see. Do I have a laser here? I might have a laser. Over to that user account you can see. And I have to hit the right button, though, and not turn off the screen. There we go. And then I'm going to get compound, get the object for compound, and I'm going to go ahead and supply to the compound contract my deposit amount, right? And so, that's one of those things where, it's really important to kind of highlight that there is easy access in JavaScript to a random third-party contract deployed on the Polygon chain there, that I'm now able to invoke its local operations in JavaScript code running on the Agoric chain, and it's just remote arranging for that to happen. So I'm now earning yield in compound with my $1,000. Obviously, that's just the first step, but I got to do this with one authorization. You know what else I can do with more authorizations is I want to accumulate that interest into cold storage. That just means withdraw the excess, whatever is over the deposit amount, that's my interest on the next day, and get Uniswap, swap it for ETH, send it over to my ETH cold storage account, and then I'm done. What's the magic that made that happen? Well, it kind of depends on the configuration. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm not going to want to do that once. I'm going to want to do that every day, right? I mean, that's the whole point of this. And so, great. I just make a thing. It does the withdraw. It's exactly the same use case I just described. Rather than saying Uniswap, I don't care. Use a solver. Use Uniswap locally. Send it over as USDC and buy it on ETH. Send it over to Camino and buy it there because it happens to be cheaper on Thursday, right? I want all of that to be handled for me. The business logic is get me some ETH, stick it in my cold storage, and do that once a day, right? On-chain timers to be able to do this regular thing, which is what the user wanted, right? Okay, that's currently impossible on any other chain. To do the timer thing, to have something that wakes up and does this on a clock, on-chain, with the dependency of smart contracts and the integrity that you would expect, but able to operate from Solana to ETH to Polygon to Cosmos, etc. Okay. So, what are the key things there? Multi-block operation. That's the fundamental unlock that has taken years to build and is a critical infrastructure that enables this sort of thing to happen. On-chain timers, which only makes sense when you can do multi-block operation that can then have stuff inside of it. And then finally, just this overall ability to be reactive, where I can send a message, wait for the answer, wait for the Oracle price to cross 50, or 3 hours that pass, whichever one happens first, I will respond to, right? Being able to wire that up in the way that we're used to doing in Web 2 is the powerful abstraction, is the thing that unlocks the ability for lots more programmers to build these things, and more importantly, unlocks the ability to build these impossible end-to-end use cases where the user just authorizes one thing and the operation lasts over time and solves their problem over time. Okay. And so there are multiple projects that are building with this. Noble to do the accelerated delivery of USDC. Ellis to do staking automation across not just their chain, but broadly across the interchain. Native to do the in-place swaps of BTC. Several other projects. There's some key things that they get out of this, right? The first is, of course, these seamless workflows that I talked about, where you can approve one thing that lasts over time. But the next is user retention, right? How many people here are familiar with liquid staking infrastructure, right? I bring Atom, I take it over, I get D-Atom or ST-Atom, what have you. I did that in order to use the liquid stake token. And so the first thing they do is they then send the customer over to Osmosis to hopefully put that token in the right pool with the right configuration so they may earn more money off of it, and maybe the user understands it and maybe they don't. But at the very least, they have just given away the customer to Osmosis or Astroport or whatever the AMM is that they sent them to, right? If instead they can use orchestration so that inside the liquid staking app, it creates the account on Osmosis for the user, sends the assets over there, puts it in the right pool, brings back the token, and then does one of these compounding things where every day it redeems the superfluid Osmo rewards and liquid stakes that as well. Now, not only have you got user retention, right, because now you've kept the user in your application, but you've got improved economics because you can automate getting the superfluid staking, or you can automate taking that resulting LP position and doing something with it, right? And so finally you get new value creation, because now not only did I get to do liquid staking, I got to do liquid staking with secondary rewards and compounding and restaking and apply the stream to build up a Bitcoin position and all these kinds of things that are currently impossible. So this enables all these impossible things and enables it to be done in JavaScript in a way that millions of people could understand. So I'm hoping that helps understand why we're so excited about orchestration and what it enables. It currently is deployed, running, live, working across the interchain, and so you can run smart contracts on Agoric that will control accounts, control staking on multiple different chains. And we are busily building together with Union and others, reaching out to Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, all the L2s, et cetera, to be able to seamlessly use the same kind of business logic, expressed the same way. And as I said, instead of doing get chain Celestia or get chain Osmosis, you did get chain Polygon or get chain ETH. And so please join us. Figure out what use cases you have that the end users have that covers more than just one little microservice, and come build it with Agoric.